way Baldur's Gate 3 handled the Swords Bard was certainly an interesting choice, because in Dungeons & Dragons at least, the Swords Bard is still definitely a bard. Most of the time you're still gonna be using the base bard package, buffing your allies and debuffing the enemies. It's just that when you're not using spell slots, instead of using a cantrip that just barely tickles the enemy, you can fight with swords instead. And the damage a Swords Bard does is fine, although it doesn't really compete with what a real martial character can do, a fighter, a barbarian, a ranger, a paladin. However, that is not the case in Baldur's Gate 3, because Baldur's Gate 3 did a number of things to make the Swords Bard into a full-on martial character. Firstly, in Dungeons & Dragons, you can only use a blade flourish once per turn. Baldur's Gate has no such restriction. The second major change is what they did with Slashing Flourish. In D&D, Slashing Flourish makes an attack with a damage bonus, and that damage bonus also hits a second enemy. In Baldur's Gate, however, it is actually just 2 attacks with a damage bonus. And if you're using a ranged weapon, the 2 attacks can hit the same target. Instead of calling this college of swords, we should call this college of crossbows. And thirdly, in D&D Bardic Inspiration, the thing you're using for your blade flourishes has a number of uses based on your charisma modifier. Baldur's Gate just has a set number of uses. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can have a totally viable Swords Bard build that does not invest in charisma. This creates a build that really steps on the rogue's toes. Instead of the rogue being the skill expertise martial class and the bard being the skill expertise spellcaster, the bard can just do both. And a Swords Bard can very easily outdamage a rogue.